Hello, and welcome to our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM live demo. I'm Dana Torgersen, Director of Product Marketing here with Sumo Logic in our Security Business Unit. And I want to welcome you to this webinar. We're going to talk about the cloud scale analytics and the automation that we can help deliver to security operations professionals. A little bit of quick housekeeping before I get started. This live webinar is being recorded, and we'll make sure that folks get a copy of this too if you haven't been able to attend. I'm going to take some time at the end for any questions that you may have. But while I'm speaking, feel free to click the Q&A button here in your webinar window and jot down your question. We'll try to get to as many as we can. We've allotted 30 minutes, and I want to ensure I can get you folks on to your next meeting and do so on time. So with that, let's get started, shall we? To begin with, I want to make sure that we're aligned and we're talking about the same problem. We're looking at the challenges that are being faced by security operations teams across the globe in the same manner, in the same shape and form. It really comes down to these three key challenges. The first one being this transformation to the cloud. With cloud migration spending at an all-time high, what's happening is folks are obviously moving and migrating for digital transformation efforts to the cloud. The trouble with that, though, is that once they arrive there, they realize that there's more threat visibility gaps than ever before. And that's because legacy security tools, SIEMs in particular, weren't built for the cloud. And this digital transformation activity and effort also leads to really the second challenge here too, the changing threat landscape. The fact that there's been shifts in the threat landscape with that migration of apps to the cloud. Now the threats have changed, the risk has changed. It's created an explosion of attack surface. In fact, 67% of security professionals in a report that we did in about mid-2020 last year said that the increase in the number of security alerts they felt stemmed from new and evolving threats. Makes perfect sense. But more than half, 55%, blamed this increase that they were experiencing in all these alerts due to their cloud infrastructure. And I think we can see that evident in the fact that a simple misconfiguration could lead to a major data breach. This attack surface explosion of not just mobile devices, but there's IoT devices in general have continued to explode. Multi-cloud environments, containerization, modern apps like load balancers, VPC flows that we have to worry about, continuous delivery services, and even microservices. As a result, organizations are facing more zero-day threats, more ransomware attacks, which continue to succeed, and APTs are still an ongoing concern. But the one on the right here, this challenge seems to still linger. It's just not going away. And more businesses that we talk to are experiencing this at a greater and greater level. And that's the fact that security operations is no longer a human scale problem. In that same report I referenced earlier, which you can find on sumologic.com in our resources section, 83% of security teams reported that their staff are experiencing alert fatigue in some shape or form. And 3 out of 4 businesses said that they would need to hire 3 or more analysts to be able to conquer all of their daily alerts. But I think you and I know that we're still facing an ongoing resource and cybersecurity skill shortage. And that means that you can't hire enough people to go and manually triage all of these alerts. And so really, this is why you have to start modernizing your security operations and do so with a modern cloud native SIEM. Now, if I want to walk you completely through how we are a different cloud SIEM solution, which I'm going to show you here in our live demo environment, really comes down to these 6 differentiators. And I want to be able to highlight these 2 for you folks in the demonstration. But key, right at the top here in the upper left-hand corner is this tile describing how we automatically generate actionable insights. And these aren't just prioritized alerts. We do the prioritization automatically, but what's happening is we're taking this data that's coming in, this flooded information from records, and we generate signals and then fire these actionable insights. And we're automatically enriching it with user context and network context as well, eliminating yet another traditionally or commonly manual process in a SecOps workflows. The middle top tile here is describing the fact that we've got multi-tenant dynamic scalability, delivering that elasticity that you need at any scale, any time, and for any of your users as well. And then on the right-hand upper corner here, central security log management, doing it across all these different teams. So folks, what you're about to see isn't a solution that we built for just a bubble of the security elite that can get to use and enjoy this cloud SIEM. No, this is built on a platform with so many use cases across ops, across security, IT ops, development, all these teams being able to come together and being able to use a single, intuitive, easy to use platform, and you're all working off the same data set as well. Lower left corner, this will be articulated as well in the demo. The combination, the integration of our deep search that we're known for at Sumo Logic with our highly tuned modern security interface, which is what's leading to this streamlined workflows that security professionals need to use when they're going through the detection and investigation, and then ultimately their response phase for incident by incident. In the lower center box here, this is speaking to the fact that we understand the cloud. We're in the cloud ourselves, cloud native in AWS. So we understand cloud native collection and detection of these threats across all the different surfaces of hybrid cloud adoption resulting in digital transformation efforts that have transacted across your organization, helping to fill that gap. So really what I'm saying there is we'll get any of your data, regardless of where it lives, and get it in for processing, and of course for visibility for you, for looking for those threats, those needles in the haystack, if it were. The lower right-hand corner is the rapid time to value. I think that's going to come across really clear inside this demonstration of how, with our out-of-the-box content and the intuitive platform that's easy to use, easy to learn, free online training, certification courses. Sometimes when we get back to face-to-face on-site training, we can deliver these Cert Jam events where you can actually work and network with our actual Sumo Logic professionals and experts on this platform that's ready to get you up and running quickly. And we're talking about onboarding and deployment of the full complete Cloud SIEM solution, not measured in months and quarters, but we're talking about getting up and running in days or weeks. And I hope that comes across too here in the demonstration. Now, again, as a reminder, for those that might be new to Sumo Logic, maybe you don't already have a Sumo Logic platform deployed for your log aggregation or your observability needs or your DevOps needs. Well, here's an opportunity that you can use that same platform, which a lot of our customers are already using, is the ability to then use it in the security use case of audit and compliance, security analytics, and our full Cloud SIEM. And I've got arrows pointing to the right because, as you can imagine, when you really just need us for compliance, and there's some great examples of a major global airline carrier that just needs help with their PCI compliance, and they're looking to expand the footprint and the use case as they go forth with Sumo Logic. But everything's pointing and moving to the right. So when I'm talking and showing you the Cloud SIEM today, I just want you to keep in the back of your minds of all this other capabilities that I'm not necessarily even going to be able to touch on today, but it's all there, all these dashboards, all this powerful full text query search capabilities, machine learning technologies for log reduce, log compare, our community threat benchmarking, our CrowdStrike threat feed integration for that is actually include threat feed, bringing data in and being able to show the baseline comparisons, also with our global intelligence service, looking at data across AWS Guard Duty, AWS CloudTrail, and seeing a baseline against other Sumo Logic customers, just like you, with the anonymous data of how you're comparing, how your threat and risks are comparing to them. So today it's really just on the Cloud SIEM workflows for folks that are in SecOps proper. So with that, let me show you and flip over here to the demo tab, which is just another browser tab that I've got set up to walk you through what is really a day in an analyst life using the Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM security interface. So with that, I will get my mouse over here, pop over, and what you're greeted with here is the entry point of our heads-up display. And this is really where it all begins. You've got a lot of customers that choose to put this up on the walls in their socks or their knocks, and they want to see this bird's eye view of everything that's going on. So let me just unpack it for you a little bit here. Upper left-hand corner, we can see today's date. I can also see a time arrangement of how much data I want to be showing in this heads-up display of the security interface here. And I can be changed and manipulated to different points in time. If I wanted to go out to 3 days, for instance, and you can see the entire page is dynamically changing and shifting here. Really, at the heart of everything that we're doing is this concept of the funnel of fidelity. We're bringing all of the records that were developing from the structured and unstructured data that you bring in and ingest into the platform. In this case, over the last 3-day period, we've had 27 million records. Excellent. So then we take those records and we have the out-of-the-box rules content that are going to fire and generate what we refer to as a signal. If and when there's ever a match or an aggregation or a comparison, there's multiple different types of rules that generate those. Well, it looks like we've taken 27 million records and we found 253,000 reasons why to alert you and make you notice that there's something going on, these detections here. So this is actually a good point to point out, a good moment to point out how traditional SIEMs, legacy SIEMs, even so-called next-gen SIEM solutions, multiple different providers, are going to leave you right here with what they might call a notable event or their enriched alert. And this is exactly where it stops, right at signals. What we call signals, they would refer to that as their alerts. And this is an awful lot of information to have to sift through to still find the actual potential attack or critical incident that's lying in wait within your environment and within your data. So Sumo Logic goes further with our Cloud SIEM solution. And what we're able to do is take those signals and start to cluster and correlate the different signals to find something that's meaningful, using a threshold of basically a threshold count of aggregating the scores of different signals that are tied together based on an entity. And that allows us to be able to understand and have that steel thread that connects all of these seemingly disparate events together. And we're doing this as a default, looking back not 24 hours or 40 hours, we're looking back 2 weeks. And that can even be extended, working with your technical account manager, to go back to 30 days, looking in arrears at your data for interesting signals that really should fire what we call an insight. An insight is our opinionated view of a potentially critical incident that needs your immediate attention for your security team to look at. As you can see, as I'm talking here, the screen is automatically pushing updates. There's no need for me to hit the refresh button or the space bar. It's just going to keep pushing. So when I'm talking about 15 insights, your eye was probably drawn to the center mass of the screen. This is our insight radar. What this is giving you is, again, as part of this heads-up display, I can see all of the different records shown in blue per the legend here. And going from top dead center at the 12 o'clock position, going around the horn, this is a 3 days of data. And so as the data is coming in and ebbing and flowing and being ingested, we are also, throughout the entire course of this time period, firing these different signals based on our out-of-the-box rules content that are generating signals. And the insights are shown by these little triangles here, and they're color-coded as well. Red indicating a new insight that has been fired, but nobody has looked at it yet. Green indicating that's an insight that a team member has actively reviewed and closed out. There's also an orange color for anything that's currently in progress. And there's another color that's designated in the color of white to represent an other category, which is fully customizable. And that gives you an at-a-glance view as to an insight that is being worked on. It's not new, it's not closed, it's being worked on, but it's in another one of your custom categories or workflows, which can mimic your own existing workflows that you've already put in place within your SOC. Down the left-hand side here, speaking to metrics for insights, right at a glance, I can see here my current runtime. This is great. So for any of you, if there's any CISOs on the call right now, or SOC directors or SOC managers, this is probably going to delight you folks to see that you can see at a glance down the left-hand view here how the team is performing. So the team is going to be collaborating brilliantly using this platform, working together with Insights page, which I'll show in a second here. But just at a glance, you can see that it's been 4 days in the period of time that a moment that the first activity was observed and when an insight was created. And then there's the tracking of the response time from the period of time from when an insight is being created to when somebody has actually taken it from new and said that it's going to be controlled and take ownership of it and have it in progress, or setting it to other. And then the last one here is that time from when we fired the insight, measuring how long it took until you actually did close out that insight. And that status is also shown quickly here with, in the 3-day period, I have 15 insights, and here's the 9 that are new, 5 that are closed, and 1 that was in that other category, which is not showing here on the screen. It's probably stacked up under one of the Yeah, it's probably under one of these here. As you can see, as I hover around and look at the different insights, although it might show as one single triangle for an insight, here's a good example that I've actually have two. They're just stacked on top of each other due to the time frame that we're looking at. It just crushes them and they start to stack, which is why you have the ability to drill down and click right through what you need. The last piece of information that might be interesting to SOC directors and SOC managers over your team is that here is a great almost gamification, if you will, that you can see how is the team working together and effectively closing out insights. When they're created, they're showing up as red bars in this bar graph here, and you can hover over them. And as they get closed, you're going to see those showing up in the downward motion here in the gray and white tipped bar graph. And so this is a great way of saying that you want to make all the reds green, or over here in this case, you want to see an awful lot more of these lower bars versus the upper red bars. Well, I did promise I wanted to show you what it looks like for a day in the life for an analyst. So let's do it. Let's say it's Monday morning, or I guess it's earlier this morning. It's Wednesday morning. We want to drill down into an insight. So they can click and drill on any of these that they want, but I want to showcase our insights page just again, so you can get an appreciation for what collaboration looks like, what this insight or event management looks like. You've got two different views. You have a Kanban board style view here, which a lot of folks tend to like. And you also have the ability to switch over and go through a list-based view. And here in this list or table view, it just presents it in a slightly different way, elongating it, showing the different tactics that are involved, the severity level of each insight, the entity that was attached. And again, as I said earlier, every single insight is attached and strung together using a particular entity, whether it's an IP address, username, host name, or URL indicator for that particular machine or device or entity. On the right-hand side, you also have a quick little baseball card view, kind of a heat map showing an attack or, again, this insight, this opinionated view of a critical incident where from left to right, you're seeing the timeline view of what's playing out. And vertically from lower to upper, you're seeing the severity level of each different signal that works together with its aggregated score, which is looking for that threshold level, which at a default is 12, but that is configurable as well, working with your technical account manager and ensuring that it's set properly for your environment. So here is a great example of, boy, there's an awful lot of signals that are below a severity level of 5. That's great visual evidence of a potentially stealthy attack, low and slow, under the radar, where they're crafting the different stages of the MITRE attack framework, which all of our signals are actually aligned to and track. So you can have that thought process that many folks do in SOCs, where you're thinking through the MITRE attack framework with all the different stages of an attack. And so you can then start to piece together exactly what happened and whatever this last final signals were, which was the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back and had us fire the insight all automatically on this particular customer's behalf. Other examples here where it looks like there might have been a recon opportunity here, and then a whole bunch of signals fired almost seemingly at once in a very short time frame here, both increasing severity as well as aligning with that particular time. So in this, the board view or Kanban board style view, which I prefer to work in, kind of like sticky notes on the walls at the office for engineering, we've got the different flows, which are all customizable too. But this one we chose to have it basically as new, in progress. Special operations, it's an optional service that we have, a threat hunting service of an elite team of threat hunters and security experts. They have an opportunity, if they're using this solution, they themselves are going to come into the environment and be able to hunt on your behalf in the background. So this might be a situation where they're going to grab and pull an insight into their own workflow, and that allows them to manage their own time and efforts to know what they're working on and close them out. There might be tier 3 analysts that you have. You might have incident handlers. And at the far right is all the close. Now I'm filtering that off by default, just so we don't have to load up all the past historical evidence. It's there if you want it. I just turn off the filter and we can see that we have 2,264 closed insights, which I don't need to worry about. Let's focus on the now. So I'm looking at new. Nobody's touched it. Nobody's taken ownership of it. We give each one a unique identifying number, Insight 2309, 2308. As I go through here, this looks interesting. Insight 2307, exfiltration with credential access. It looks like I have an entity, which is a host name for this particular entity or system or device or user. It looks like there's 5 hours now in duration. It's comprised of 4 signals, and it's being deemed as having a high severity. Nobody has taken ownership. It's not assigned, so let's go ahead. This is a day in the life. Let's take ownership of this. So I'm going to assign it to myself, Dana Torgersen. There we go. It is a new status, so I'm going to go ahead and start working it. It's in progress now. So behind the scenes, I have just now moved my tile into the in progress flow in the Kanban board style view. And also, if you're back on the HUD page, my triangle now has gone from red to orange by taking that activity. What you're greeted with as looking at this one insight, here again is that timeline view from left to right. I'm going through time and day of the different days and the hours of the day of when these signals are firing. And the signals are fired based on rules that are either a traditional rule or it's an anomaly-based rule, threat intelligence rule, third-party feed that came through. And that's what's changing the color and the shape of this designation, this visual key as you're looking at your signals. And it looks like mine are all comprised of traditional rules that were set up. As I hover on each, again, I can see the severity is 5. Sure, it's right on that midline between 0 and 10. This one's a much lower severity of 1, 2. So far, if we want to do the count, for those playing at the home game, we've got a severity of 5. Okay, this is an AWS guard duty alert, unauthorized access. It looks like it was credential exfiltration. Not good, but not necessarily the whole story. Not the end of the day, and the sky's not falling yet. So let's keep that in mind. 5, now we've got a severity of a rare global intelligence service guard duty alert. That's our Sumo unique feature of our GIS feed, pulling guard duty data and looking at it compared to other customers and their examples. It looks like it was a credential exfiltration. So we give that a severity of 1. So now we're at 6. Okay, now we're over here looking at later in that particular day, we have AWS guard duty alert. There was pen test. There was a identity access management user using Kali Linux. Okay, that's severity level of 2. So what are we at? 5, 6, 7, 8. We haven't reached the threshold of 12 yet, but now Sumo Logic, the Cloud SIEM, is holding this in state with this aggregated count. We've got something that we could be building here. And as time moved on, it looks like we had a high severity of 8. An AWS guard duty alert. It was looking at behavior for your EC2 environments. It was traffic volume was absolutely unusual. Well, there it is. That's the linchpin right there. 8 plus the previous score puts us over 12. And so that's why this insight was fired. Okay, I didn't have to just go through and hover and look at these. As I'm clicking on each of these, as you can see, it'll drill down and show me the details of that particular signal as well. And the signal is made up of records. And I can see how many records were attributed to that one signal. I can see the time of when the signal was fired. I can see the severity that was attributed to it, which just helps to its score towards an insight. A complete description of what's actually happening behind the scenes here. So it makes it easier for maybe more junior members of the team, some of your level 1 team members to get up and running. So this is almost a learning tool, almost a kind of a built-in mentorship as you're trying to bring folks along. And we, as I said before, we know that we're in a cybersecurity skill shortage. So we need all hands on deck that we can. Not everybody out of the gate that you hire is going to have that deep experience that your level 2, 3, and level 4 experts are going to have. I can also see the rule that was fired. So let me diverge just a little bit here and click on that. You know, I'm just, with one click, I'm now drilling down in to see what this rule was. It was a match-based rule, it looks like, and with a dynamic severity score. I'm also able to see over the past months and the various days of the week when this rule was firing and creating a signal. As a demo environment, it looks like this is a particular signal that's firing for us often, so that it could have a level of predictability. In your own production environment, this will be quite glaring when you see how rare these blue boxes will be showing up over the period of time. But again, this speaks to the fact that we are looking back at a lengthy amount of time and collecting and clustering those signals together to fire one insight. Here you can see that rule was created, and when it's triggered, it's going to match an expression. We've got helpers throughout the entire process here to make it easier to understand and to develop these rules. What happens when this is triggered? You're going to go create a signal. You're going to create it on what type of entity, what type of name you want it to have. You could have a summary here. You could write your description. We have more than 600 of these rules that are pre-built and managed and curated by Sumo Logic's threat engineering content team. So they're the ones that would have written all this up. And this is what our customers get to enjoy out of the box. And you can see, you could have it as a prototype rule. Then you can see the historical evidence of who has maybe been touching or editing or changing this rule, or turning it on or turning it off. And then here's a lengthy list of all the different insights that this rule has helped out in firing an insight. So let me go back a little bit here. I just wanted to show you kind of a quick glimpse into how easy it is that we do our rules, yet how thorough they can be, especially when it comes to this clustering concept that we have in place. Also, along the way, when you're looking at these signals, anytime that you do a hover over IP address or host names, you'll see these little 6 dots. This is our context action menus that pop up. This allows you, in this case, we're looking at an IP address here. It looks like it was, the threat was an unauthorized access. IAM user was this credential exfiltration that's happening. So clearly, there's an AWS account credentials are being used in a privilege escalation here, which is probably the forethought going into an attack here as they're doing their planning and, of course, trying to pivot and go deeper into the systems. So as I'm looking at this IP address with one click here, a left click on that 6-dotted icon for context actions, instantly I can see that there's a pre-built search ready to go for this particular IP address, looking across all of the insights that we have, all the signals and all the different entities. You could also search for all the records natively right here using the Cloud SIEM interface to understand what we have on file for that IP address. And there, again, here comes the verdict that you've got just 3 records. 2 were notification based and 1 was an endpoint based. So this again gives you a sense of how quickly you're getting down into the data. Notice I'm not doing some fancy custom query, no sort of special filterings. I'm not piping anything in particular. I'm just clicking through this. And this again speaks to this rapid time to value we wanted to make sure that customers can enjoy. It doesn't say you aren't able to do that. That the Sumo search interface still allows you all that power. We're just showing you the workflow of how a security operations team wants to work and get going and move through this data quickly. Let me go back to my previous screen here. So as I'm looking at all these different signals that were making up the particular insight, and I can play it through this way too, by scrolling down, seeing how this potential attack is playing out and how the severity scores were coming through and all the different items. When I know that this is truly, I've got a handle on the situation, I know how to deal with it, it's time to respond to this, I can take action. I've already taken ownership. Now I'm the only analyst that should be working this right now. And if I have notes, I can have tags, I can add comments here. I can be saying that appears to be a privilege. Oops, I got to spell it right from the rest of my teammates. Privilege escalation attempt. Oh, this is tough. Live demos, folks. So I've got commenting, I've got tagging. It's time to take action. There's the ability to do automatically triggered actions and automate this further, but I also have these on-demand actions ready to go. So if this is something that I want to email this insight out to folks or to a team, maybe send it to a SOAR tool that we've already invested in heavily. Maybe I want to send it to Slack, maybe tap into some of the great integrations and scripting that you can do with Slack and those additional features. Reaching out to folks using PagerDuty, coordinating with ServiceNow system as well. All of these different actions I can take. And when I'm ready and I know that I can close the insight, I just simply close the insight. And there I have the ability to choose the different resolution. Was it just, I resolved it? Was it maybe a false positive? Could be. Chances are low, but this gives the power for the analyst to actually make that declaration and let the system learn from that. Also, maybe there was no action needed, or we found that this is actually a duplicate, that for some reason that some device, one of our security stack detections is just firing the same detection over and over, because that's just the behavior of maybe the malware or maybe ransomware that's on that system. And every time it has a chance, it's going to keep detecting, alerting on that, and then firing the same insight. You have the ability to suppress signals that are getting a little bit noisy like that. So this is the process for closing out an insight. When I'm done, you go right back again. You look at your chart here and you see what next one you want to go to, or probably more appropriately, you go into the insights page and it's just on to the next one. Now, folks, normally this process, you might be talking about 4 hours to fully investigate and connect the dots to try to understand what an insight, what we consider an insight is. But we're able to bring this down into just mere minutes. And this is when you hear us talking about this automation, and when you read, if you're on our website or attend any other webinars or looking at our published documentation, this is really where the rubber has met the road. This is what we mean by that. So let me flip back over. I've taken enough of your time. I'm being mindful of the clock here. Let me see if I can pull up here. Looks like I'm having a Chrome browser issue. This is news for me. I think this is a system error on my part, folks. But basically what I wanted to be able to convey, let me try an Alt Tab. Interesting. What I want to, there we go. That is very interesting. I don't know if I trust Chrome anymore. What we've got is a quick wrap up. I wanted to point out that it's not just about the buttons and the features. It's not about automation. It certainly helps, but it's also the support. It's the people that are here to back you up and back your team up, especially when you need it most. From professional services, helping you get onboarded quickly, premium support, holding your hand, answering questions, designated technical account manager along the way, to the tip of the pyramid here, which is that concept I mentioned earlier, this offering, this optional offering of this service, this threat hunting service we call Spec Ops, which is short for special operations. This focused team-oriented threat hunting made up of this elite members that we've got working across the globe to work with our customers and get in there, used by small organizations and used by some of the largest organizations in the world because they act as a force multiplier. We said before, there's not enough bodies to hire. There's not enough people with the experience to go around for security these days. So here's the ability to tap into this experience and this service and get up and running quickly. And that's really the key there. So let me flip over here and see if we have any questions. If you want to take your phone out, you want to take a quick snapshot with your camera of this QR code, that'll bring you right to our information page for our Cloud SIEM solution, particularly our Cloud SIEM Enterprise add-on. And with that, I'll take a look at some of the questions that are coming in. Okay. First question I see here. Is this application, which I was showing, is this available out of the box in Sumo Logic, or is it another module? So what I showed you in my walking through of the day in the life, this is actually an add-on module. So it all works off of our core Sumo Logic platform, which is cloud native in AWS. The module is what we call Cloud SIEM Enterprise. And so that allows you to have that persona-based, purpose-driven UI and that experience of those workflows. So good question. Thank you for asking that. Another question here. Does closing as a false positive give the system any feedback to improve? Yes, I am under the impression that yes, it does have that ability. And with the automation and with the automated triage and the prioritization that we're performing, as well as the automatic enrichments of user and network context that's pulling together, we've actually had evidence that we've helped one particular customer that I'm sure if I mentioned the name, you folks would all know it. There's a case study out on our website if you want to go deeper. We helped them bring what was working with their existing solutions and their existing MSSP provider was a 98% false positive rate that they were experiencing. And we helped to collapse and bring that down to just 9% false positive rate, just in the first 45 days of doing the proof of concept or proof of value evaluation with them. So taking it that step further of when you're closing an insight and you're indicating it's a false positive, that again helps that system to understand, and it helps identify the rest of your teammates too, that, okay, there's something going on here. There's some reason that we're getting these to pop up, and it allows you to drill into it. Without that capability, without that tracking, you just might be experiencing the same continuous thing over and over. Well, I think that's it. And I also want to be mindful of the time. I realize I've gone 5 minutes over. Folks, if you have any questions, I want you to feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm Dana Torgersen, Director of Product Marketing with our Security Business Unit here at Sumo Logic. Thank you for attending. And if you have any questions, again, I'm D. Torgersen at sumologic.com. Have a wonderful day, folks.